That's how it goes, man. Good morning. It is the evening, but that's fine. I'm making the rules here. This is episode 69 of the Cancelled Club podcast. What we're going to be doing here is just deep diving, man. Like, just the shit I usually do. Going to be trying to bring in all of my YouTube rabbit holes and just like all of my thoughts out to the public, and also to bring in some people so that they can hopefully expose themselves and their views so that we can get a better understanding out of them, because there's a lot of people, and these are usually cancelled people, and this is why we've called it the Cancelled Club, innit? Because there's a lot of people that, like, I would listen, I listen to anybody, innit? But there's a lot of people that seem to, especially in this day and age, cancel culture being a huge thing, just people that just get dismissed. And I want to chat to them, innit? Because they're not scary to me. They just have views and ideas. I mean, if we have to get like physical, that's calm. I do apologize for the glare right now, as we don't have a huge budget, even though like this does look like I'm about to give you a Photoshop tutorial. There's no makeup, so my forehead is shiny. I might try to take out the matte in post, probably not. So just deal with it, or make fun of it in the comments. Who cares? This year's been quite interesting, I think. It's been a struggle. It's been for everyone in different ways. I've lost family members. A lot of us have lost family members, lost work, which isn't on the same level, but I mean, I feel like the work I do brings some purpose to my life, and I don't hate it like I used to hate other jobs, which we're going to talk about down the line. There's so much uncertainty right now, and there's so many other tragic things happening. But at the same time, whilst all of these bad things are happening, I can't say that I don't live in one of the best times. That I live in the best time in history right now. And I've gone through a lot of stressful things in my life, and I've gone through a lot of hard things, like a lot of the people that I'm going to hopefully bring on to discuss these things. And I just want to share some of that pain and vision, because it hasn't made me want to regress. It hasn't made me want to shy away from sort of combating life. It's just made me want to attack it more. It's made me want to really just dig deep and see what's within me, because I mean, as far as this country goes, without having been personally violated to this some degree, well, without having been personally violated, in my opinion, I've been to some of the darkest places that you can go into this country, and I've been fortunate enough to have traveled to nearly 50 countries around the world now for work, and I've seen a lot of things, and a lot of people haven't been fortunate enough to have that experience and have the opportunity which I was given, which is an interesting story in itself in the context of our time. A lot of people just haven't had that, in short. And I kind of want to share my vision and the vision of other people who have been able to see some things that we don't always have the opportunity to see right now. And that's the good thing about real deep conversation and real meaningful conversation. It's not always going to be serious and me sort of like just introing who I am and what I'm aiming to do like this. Sometimes they're going to be funny. If you know anything about me, you know that I'm definitely one of the most retarded people that you'll ever meet. But at the same time, I definitely think there's a lot of serious things going on right now. Obviously, George Floyd was murdered by police, I think nearly 2 weeks now, and across the world there's been a reaction. Obviously, usually mainly in the West, there's been some protesters that I've seen in Hong Kong, which is going through its own specific turmoil right now, which we should look into. Again, I don't know 100% about all of these things I'm going to discuss, and I don't purposefully over research because I'm a biased individual in some ways, and it's easier to do some research and leave yourself open to have conversations, so people with other insights or just different ways of looking at the world can fill you in, and you can just sort of maybe get over some of your own lack of understanding. Like, I don't know shit about China. I don't know shit about Hong Kong. I know that there's people there. I know that there's been some power struggle right now, and China's pretty much taken over Hong Kong. So some people say. Other people say that there's nothing going on at all. But that's a serious place. In Britain, we've had obviously the leak over of the Black Lives Matter. I need to fucking sort of look more into the camera, but that will come with time. I'm just thinking in it. So, so the things that have been happening in the US have leaked over to the UK, and it's brought up a lot of sort of interesting arguments that I want to have on this podcast and in the future with a lot of people, because a lot of people say some wild shit and no one holds them to account. They get away with saying dumb shit. They get away with playing logical games that they don't then apply to themselves and use as some power struggle to hold over other people, and especially in this day and age. And one thing that I want to really do is expose anything that isn't gonna allow us to, as a community, progress in real ways that matter and allow us to change our situations. I come from I don't want to say a single parent family, because my dad was there until I was about 16, but after that and experiencing the breakup of my family, it did have a major impact on my life. And going forward, I don't have to perpetuate those ideas. I can try and share my experience and the experiences of other people who are aiming for sort of more different goals, more higher values, if you want to put it like that. Because again, like, it's not up, like, nobody has to do anything in it, but when we do look at the world, we can differentiate between ways that are progressive and ways that do help us to make real progress, and ways that seem progressive in the typical political sense that they end up sort of being a crutch to our communities. One of the things I want to talk about is welfare, and how, although it seems like a good idea, in the long term, it's holding a lot of black people back, and it's holding a lot of minority communities back. And it does sound like a kind of a hard thing to say, because I grew up in sort of Tulse Hill, that's South Brixton, basically. If you don't know anything about the ends like that, and like, it was tough, and like, it does feel like when you grow up in that environment that you can't get out and you can't surpass and you can't sort of experience more, but you can. And it just takes discipline, and it takes struggling, and it takes putting aside your rage and your frustration and trying to do things better for yourself rather than taking revenge. And the reason why I say that is because, let's say, for example, in this George Floyd scenario, it was a terrible thing that this guy was murdered, but the reaction to it, in my opinion, right now, doesn't meet up with what happened. And I understand that there are many different factors to the conversation in regards to it, but at no point does fighting a criminal act with criminal acts become justified under any circumstances. That's not true, sorry. There are some laws that are there that I guess you have a duty to break if they're stupid and if they're immoral. But if you're talking about criminal activity that has resulted in more deaths of people, which I'll put up a screen grab of, it's resulted in more of an oppositional way of looking at the world. I think it doesn't make much sense, especially because of people's lack of understanding of how big the world really is, how complex the world really is. The fact that systems that people from educated societies have sort of told us exist don't necessarily exist in the way that we think they did. And there's been a lot of, this may sound vague, and I guess I'll have to clear it up over time, but there's been a lot of control being taken away from people, and there's a lot of manipulation being happening. And this is why I started this, just to give another voice out there. We need as many voices as possible. The majority of the things I'm going to say here today or in the future aren't necessarily going to be 100% correct, but in being able to have those conversations and to be able to be honest about where you fucked up in the past, where you've not been correct. Like, if you have if you say something that doesn't make sense, that's fine. You can move on, you can grow. But we need to be able to have those conversations out in the open if we want to have real progress. And another thing that we need to do is we need to have a real sense of personal accountability, whether it's for ourselves, which is what the main thing should be. This is where self-discipline and things like that come in, but also for people around us. We need to be watching our communities more. We need to be actually taking a part and not necessarily virtue signaling and making it look like we're a part of a movement that we're only a part of as far as social media can see, and actually become parts of the change that our communities need to see in it. And it's a hard one. One of the things that we're going to talk about in the future, which is, I don't remember what her name is, but I want to get her in to talk about it. She said she wanted to become a police officer. And one of the things that's come up recently that's been quite interesting is that this idea that all police are bad people and we need to get rid of the police. But the police is just a label at the end of the day. And if we get rid of the police, the label, we're still going to have to police in sort of what the idea is, our communities anyway. So we have the same propensity for corruption that we did before. Just to add to this is a lot of my thoughts on the George Floyd situation are on my JR News 1427 Instagram account, which I'm going to be updating and doing a lot more of the written stuff on there. So you can get more of my thoughts on that. But yeah, I don't know. These are quite patchy thoughts right now. I've been trying to think about what to say all day. But it's been difficult. There's going to be a lot of subjects I want to cover, and there's going to be a lot of people that I want to bring in. But we'll just have to see how it goes. This is the Council Club podcast. The next episode is going to be speaking about the coronavirus and the George Floyd. I'm just going to mix them in the two, and I'm not going to try and get into any conspiracy. I just want to try and lay out the facts so that we've actually seen everything in sort of more of a clear form, with all of the information having come out now since it's been about 2 weeks. Obviously more information will come out as time goes on, but just so that we can actually have a real discussion about what we should do. Because going out and I went to the protest, going out and shouting on the streets is not the thing. I don't care anyway. It's not for me, innit? I don't see the point, because, and I went twice. I've got those pictures that some of them are up online. It didn't seem to do anything because there was no sort of counter protesters. It was just an opportunity for, in my opinion, people to go out and take pictures with each other and go and virtue signal to the world as if they care, but not really address any real issues. Like, what I want to do is for us to address issues within our communities, and rather than asking for other people to change, to look within, have some discussions about how we've arrived here and what things we can do different going forward. How we can sort of talk about rebuilding the family, how we can aim to teach our children and really take their upbringing into our own hands rather than abdicating that responsibility to the state. And really, I don't know, man, maybe it's because I'm a man, but I really want to hold the men accountable and get people pushed to stop having all of these dumb excuses, innit? I've been a man that's made excuses my whole life. So I'm not talking from a position of like, I'm not better than anyone, innit? I'm a lot worse than a lot of people in a lot of ways, innit? But that doesn't mean that making excuses is acceptable because you've got bare excuses that as to why you make excuses, and it is still pathetic. And we need to stop doing that, and we need to start addressing things. We can't start making points about what other people are doing wrong, and then when that person justifiably turns around and says, mate, you need to sort your own shit out before you come and start chatting to me. We need to start being able to handle that, and I don't think a lot of people can do that. Nobody likes getting called out. Nobody likes getting shamed. Nobody likes a million things, and that's cool. I understand. It's emotional, it's hard, but the sooner you face up to things and you accept things, they wash over and you can progress, and that's what we need to do. We need to progress. So I'm going to take a sip on my coffee. I have a t-shirt, and I was going to try and put it on a bit more funny, but I'm just going to put it on. And this really speaks to me because I'm mixed race and I'm from Ireland, and Sometimes I treat people like bitches. But this is a perfect t-shirt for me to be wearing right now. Because this is what we need more of. We need more unity. We need more blacks. We need more dogs. We need more Irish. And we need them now. Sorry, I'm just adjusting. I know it might be a bit... Sorry, it might have been a bit annoying just staring into something that's just glaring back in your face, and I've kind of lost track of what I was saying. I actually had a reason why I was going to put this t-shirt on, and I completely forgot what it was. But that's fine. There's going to be so much of that. Fucking hell, fam. Trying to unwind all of the things that I've sort of taken in to come to these crazy conclusions is going to be... It's going to be interesting. So some of the story... We're going to have a story time. We're going to have a news time. The next one's going to be a lot more structured than this. It's going to be fucking hilarious. News time, story time. I'm going to tell you about the time I went to prison. I'm going to tell you about the time in prison when I was flicking tea bags into someone else's window and they were on a different wing, so they couldn't get to me, which was hilarious. But it's mate, bare funny stories in prison. Funnily enough, or weirdly enough, I don't know. Nothing weird happened, but it just shaped. A lot of these stories helped shape how I think today, innit? And one of the main things and one of the main reasons why I want to do this is so that we can just fucking look at ourselves properly, take stock of where we are, set some real goals as a community, work together to get them, no matter who wants to be part of the community, and fucking stop making excuses, because people look at us like we're weak. They look at us like we're stupid. They look at us like we're pansies. They look at us like we need help. And we don't need help. We're not pathetic. We don't need leaders. We don't need none of that shit. What we need to do is to grow up. We need to... And again, there's reasons why people haven't done that, innit? For me, I've forgiven my father for what I feel like he put my family through. And my mother. It's not just a one-sided scenario. But not having him in my life as a certain influence fucked up my confidence for years, and it fucked up so many things, and I'm still building those things back up now. But that doesn't mean that I need to allow that to be perpetuated for my children or for the people around me, or that I need to carry those things on. Sometimes we need to forgive people, as hard as it is, look at the world as it really is, and then move on from there, innit? What do you really want? Do you really need to... Because, and this may be a side point, but a lot of people make excuses like, but this is how the system is, this is how we're programmed to be, this is what they want you to do. But what do you want to do? Do you want to listen to this system all day and what they're telling you to do? Or do you want to do what you want to do in it? Because the majority of people out there want to do normal shit. They want to do stuff that betters their life, keeps their family safe. And it's a very small percentage of people that are out there that are trying to fuck other people over in it. And nobody likes those people, innit? We have a special place for them, and it's called prison. And a lot of them deserve to be there, and a lot of them don't. But in saying that, in us having higher standards and us reaching for different things and actually trying to have discipline, a lot of those numbers of these outliers within our communities that deal with their struggle in a way that tends to break down the communities even further will decrease. It doesn't, like, there's many reasons why people go out and do the shit they do, because they need money and they need to live in it. But we're getting further and further from that being a necessity. And we've got so much access to information. We've got so much access to the world now that people didn't have in our parents' generation and before that we don't really have an excuse. We can't pretend like we don't know anymore. And that's where it becomes a problem. When you don't know something, no one can hold it against you, and you can easily be forgiven. But as soon as you start continuously making excuses, and this is something I've done, I'm not saying that I'm not separate from this, but the moment you continue to do that, you start getting taken less and less seriously, and people don't want to see you change because they don't think you can, innit? And as a community, if people are going to be out on the streets fucking screaming to the high roofs, and this tends to always be the women who are the mothers of the youths who are ended up getting killed that we end up protesting for. There's no dads out there protesting. We're just going to be in that continuous cycle. I hope that made sense. I'm going to reiterate it because I feel like I have a point in there. We need stronger men in society, and we need men that stick around their kids, and we need strong families, because when we don't have strong families and families are set apart, their children have a higher propensity to go to prison and have shit lives. And we need to stop that, because it's up to us, and it was up to our parents, and it was up to their parents. But the sooner and the moment that we realize that we have no excuse and things are fucking hard, my life is not ideal at all at the moment, but that's cool. It can become ideal, things can become better, but until we start facing up with what those things really are and checking ourselves, man ain't going nowhere. And I tell you that from the gate. And this is why, this is a free bit of advice. Somebody who will not tell you about yourself is not your friend, innit? So all of these people that are letting you get away with shit and just fucking live and be lit, yeah, they're not your friends, bro. And people have told you this for years, innit? And I'm telling you again, and I hope you play this on loop every time you wake up in the morning. People that don't tell you the truth about yourself are not your friends. And if they're afraid to do it for whatever reason, I get that. But as a community and as people, and I'm not gonna sort of subcategorize it, because my community knows who I'm talking to. Do you know what I mean? Somebody, whoever it is that is gonna accept what I'm saying, and with open ears. You don't have to accept it as gospel truth. I'm just a man. I'm not preaching any gospel truth in it. But the community is anybody who's gonna listen and think and agree that what I'm saying is reasonable. No matter what it is you like to do in life. My friends know all I do is sit and watch YouTube all day. I just found a new channel by you from Canada called Too Mad. He's fucking hilarious. If anybody knows that, I'll see you tomorrow, girl. What is it? I know we couldn't Skype tonight. Good night, girl. I'll see you tomorrow. If anybody knows that meme, beast. But that's what I do. But in having done that over the years, I've just been able to see how good the world can be. And in the fractured nature of YouTube, having my own pockets that I could go and view, I just made me understand even more that all of this shit that the media's feeding us to help us hate each other and to allow us to see the world in such destructive and myopic terms is nonsense, bruv. It's just a control mechanism, innit? Like, the world, things are not as bad as they may seem. Things can be turned around, and it's just us taking us responsibility and going for it, innit? This has been a long ramble, yeah, and I don't care. It's gonna be much worse, I promise you that. But in short, this is about accountability. I don't want to give anybody the excuse to say that, well, this person is this and that, and nobody got them in and question them, because we're going to try and do that here. We're going to try and address real issues. We're not going to try and back off from anything. We're going to try and make sure that we're being as 100% as possible. I'm going to be giving dating advice, cooking advice, gaming advice, dating advice again, and more dating advice, because I'm amazing with women, as you can tell, and anybody who's ever dealt with me can tell, which is definitely not true. But I'm going to give you some dating advice nonetheless, because I want to be in a successful relationship at one point, and I learned a lot about myself from not being in successful ones and just being a dirtbag on the strip. For anybody who knows me, raw dog style, you get me? No, sorry. It's true. What was it called back in the day? Fuck. What did we call it? I want to remember this one, fam. I can't remember what we used to call it. That's a bareback something, but I don't know, man. It's stupid. Anyway. I don't know, man. Like, again, one thing that I dislike when I go out in the world is seeing people talk in ways that they don't act. I see a lot of people talk in ways that paint the world as if it's the worst place in the world. It's a diabolical fucking shit show of mess. But their life doesn't reflect that, and it confuses me. And I want people to start acting and living in such a way that allows them to deal with what's in front of them. Things aren't that bad, innit? You can take stock and change things, no matter how you feel, no matter how many times in a day you feel bad. It's fucking difficult, but we can only get through those things by being open and creating a community, and not talking about, how do I put it? People like to talk about mental health issues, but not, and they want to talk about mental health, but they don't want to talk up to a person about their specific issue and allow them to open up. They just want to send them to therapy. They don't want to actually, I don't know if that's the best way to put it, and I'm not really going to change it, but yeah, I don't know if that's the best way to put that. It's out there now. We're not doing much edits on this one. If I said something wrong, let me know in the comments, challenge it, and we'll see you on the binary dance floor of the internet, and I will fucking defeat you. You gotta forgive your parents, yeah? This is a free bit of advice. If you want to move on in life, you gotta forgive your parents for what they done, because they couldn't help it. I learned this from someone else, and it actually has changed my life. And I say that because I come from a community where majority of their parents are fucked. Like, and that's not necessarily to shit on people, because everybody in life goes through suffering, and life is basically just a bunch of suffering. But you can overcome things, innit? And it's only by forgiving people anybody who trespasses against you, you got to forgive people, innit? And that's the only way to get past it, because then you're not holding on to things. And it's real forgiveness. Whether it's the guy who killed George Floyd, or it's the guy who killed Lee Rigby, or it's whoever. We're only going to be able to move past the frustration and really see how we can help people. And I know I just used two very extreme examples. If we forgive them. Because this is the fucked thing about when major stuff happens, or when things happen that happen every day that get spun into major things. People like to forget who they are and forget what they are, and forget that they have the exact same propensity for the evil that they're now chatting shit about. And they're also reacting in some ways that don't make sense. Like that whole looting scenario is one of them. You're destroying, and again, the reason why I went to prison is for that exact reason. 2011 London riots, stupid story, we'll get into it. That was a counterproductive way of dealing with the issue, because now it just made more people fit the bill for who they were going out to find in the first place, which was why we was in that scenario, innit? It sort of justifies people's negative look towards us, and we need to get rid of that. We can't be giving people stupid excuses, or no, excuses that are justified, that we think are stupid, when we're making when we're crying out about something, innit? If I say to you, and this is one that happens all the time, it's the All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter thing, or the black on black violence was probably a better one to choose. People don't like the term black on black violence for a million different reasons, but they don't want to address the subject matter within that phrase. They want to debate the fact that you shouldn't use the phrase in the first place, and there's simple reasons why they don't think you should use it, and one of them is because there isn't a label called white on white violence. But up until this point, we remembered that we were the minority here, and then as soon as we were discussing this one thing, we seemed to forget. So when a major group is talking about a subgroup, or just a statistical group, which is where these numbers seem to come from, we need to deal with what those numbers tell us and not get stuck up about not being the point. It isn't the point of this discussion that you were trying to have, but it really is a reflection of maybe what you should be dealing with, because especially with that specific issue, the numbers aren't in our favor. Do you know what I mean? And that argument of, well, why don't you deal with black on black violence and that being an issue, it's a justifiable statement, as much as that hurts, innit? And as much as we don't like people to use it, innit? But the only way we can stop people from using that is changing the nature of that statistical group, which is reflecting a disproportionate number of cases based on the number of the minority group, which is complex. And I'm going to get the numbers up, which will include in a George Floyd episode 70. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's enough for now, innit? We fucking, yeah. I don't know. This will get better, I promise, as we go on, and it may not be as long as rambly, or it might be more, but it'll be worth the time. So yeah, thanks a lot. This has been the Cancelled Podcast, episode 69. I'll see you at episode 69, 420.